Derby County are awaiting investment heading into the summer transfer window, but is it going to come before we get to the opening day of the window? Now, there's a ton of questions heading towards the likes of David Clowes and Derby County over the way this season has been handled and the way the transfer windows have been handled too. Now, I want to talk about the importance of Derby County securing investment and securing maybe even a takeover heading into this summer window. Now, we've spoke across this season about the quality of the squad, the management team, obviously not now under John Eustace, but previously under Paul Warne, and the need for sporting intelligence within the club. Now, obviously, Derby County have that sporting intelligence unit, which is set to have a man added to it by the name of Lee Brumby. But what is really needed is people at the higher level, next to David Clowes, next to Stephen Pearce, who have proper footballing expertise, and that's something which Derby County do not have right now. Now, obviously, when it comes to a potential takeover or potential investment, we haven't really had any news since the John Percy article, what was it, at the start of March, where it discussed players not wanting to come due to Paul Warne's style of football, where they also discussed like the chances of staying in the division, what John Eustace was wanting to do with the club going forward. And we know that in that article, it was discussed by John Percy that there were groups at the table looking to invest and potentially purchase a stake of Derby County. Now, obviously, as we look forward to this summer and we head into the final game of the season, which is Stoke City, we have this conversation about what is really going on with Derby County. And are we really going to be able to see that investment, that takeover, be done across the course of the next few months? Now, obviously, I believe the season next year starts at the first week of August, which obviously then means that Derby County have got, 3-4 months to get their squad in order, ready for pre-season, ready for whatever Derby decide to do this pre-season. Obviously, the last couple of years they've been to Spain, but will they do an away trip again this year? We're not entirely sure. Now, obviously, when it comes to this summer, we've got contracts to discuss, we've got signings to discuss, and we've got players that really we need to move out the building, as well as a ton of youngsters who, in my opinion, deserve senior contracts, deserve obviously scholarships as well for those lower down the pyramid. And for me, there's a lot going on at Derby County and a lot that John Eustace is going to have to deal with this summer. Obviously, with the help of many other staff, including the likes of Lee Brumby, you look at Mark Thomas. You also look at the other people involved in the Sport and Intelligence Unit of Ed Smith and Mo Babbitt, and obviously those people in the recruitment department. But what he needs more than any of those people is a budget to work with, whether that be for transfer fees, whether it be for wages. He needs that budget to work with. And as we've seen this season, yes, Derby County have spent money. But if I am correct in this, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, if we talk about fees that have come in across the course of last summer for sell-on fees for our own players leaving, and then obviously in January for Cashin moving on, I believe this season we're a net positive. I think we only spent about 3 or 4 million in the summer, which was negated by Max Bird moving back in January, which was obviously gone through permanently for the summer. You've then got obviously the money we made from Delap, from Bogle, from Amari Kellyman moving on. And you've got all these deals that have gone off that sort of helped Derby make those transfers. You've then got in the January window, Erin Cashin went for, £10 million, rumoured to be going up to 12.5 million should he hit certain clauses. And that funded Langas, that funded that funded Matt Clark. It funded deals like that, Sondre Langas. And getting these deals done, obviously Selverson as well. And don't get me wrong, I think Derby County did well with their transfer business. And I know a few people loved Erin Cashin. I did as well. But I do believe that we've become a better defensive organisation since he's moved on. And I had my problems with Cashin as a player anyway. And obviously replacing him with Sondre Langas, with Matt Clark, with Nat Phillips coming in as well. I think we've seen a lot more of what Erin Cashin needs to learn. He was always quick. He was always sort of on a quick step. He was always stepping up when he didn't need to. And don't get me wrong, Clark, Phillips, Langas have all done that as well. So's the likes of Fozzie. But for Cashin, it was a consistent thing. But anyway, back onto the transfer topic, where for me, we didn't really spend money out of, let's say, David Clowes' pocket into the club, etc. We sort of spent what we earned. Now, I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm not saying Derby County shouldn't do that. But the problem that we have heading into this summer is we don't really have a squad of players that we can earn a fee from, realistically. The only player you could probably argue is worth a great deal is probably Kane Wilson, or Sondre Langas or Zetterstrom or Selverson, all of which Selverson's been injured. Langas is going to have to go through surgery. Wilson's out of contract, and Zetterstrom, obviously he's out at the minute as well, but another player who, should we stay up, isn't going to be going anywhere anyway. So you're looking forward to this summer and you're going, well, we're not going to have any money to sort of play with, really. Yes, there's supposed to be a couple of million left from obviously the cashing deal, but I imagine that's probably been spent on running the club the last few months. And that's really the discussion we need to have about how important this investment is going to be heading into the summer transfer window. And that could be not just for playing staff, it could also be for John Eustace to add to his coaching team, his analysis department, his fitness department and things like that, his physios and stuff like that. And these are all things that do need to be discussed, because if Derby County don't get that investment next season, I'm not going to say it's going to be the same as this season, because I do believe that what John Eustace has done with these players is on a completely different level to what Paul Warren was ever capable of doing. So I do think we'd end up sort of bottom end of the mid-table, which is sort of where I hoped Derby County would be this season. Obviously, it's been more of a relegation scrap. So it's one of those where if John Eustace gets the budget and brings in the right players, I do personally believe we could be challenging, not necessarily for automatic promotion or anything like that, but sort of the bottom end of those playoff positions. Like, you look at where Blackburn Rovers are, and don't get me wrong, they've spent a lot of money on the loan signing of Emmanuel Dennis. They've spent £1.5 million on August Caraballo. You've got, obviously, Deion Sanders, who they bought in from loan. You've got Todd Cantwell, another player they paid a fee for. So it's sort of like they've bought in a decent chunk of players. You've obviously got Yuki Oshai, you've got Makata Guy as well, all players who they bought in, and they have spent fees at Blackburn Rovers. But it's one of those where they had, what was it? Was it 25 million they got for Sammy Schmodix, which ultimately paid for those transfers. And then ultimately, in the January window, the reason why he ended up moving to Derby County was he didn't get the backing, he didn't get the investment. And that's what worries me if we aren't to get this investment in the club, we aren't to get this potential takeover done before the summer window, is that Eustace might not get what he deserves to show exactly how good he is. And I do believe that John Eustace over, should we stay up, I have to preface, should we stay up, I think we could be in the Premier League in the next 5 years, should we stay up this season. Maybe even less than that, depending on the quality of investment that we brought in and the quality of players that we bring in. You look at some of the players we've bought in this summer, Zetterstrom has been a very, very good signing. I think Langas has been a brilliant signing. I think if you look at Nat Phillips, great signing. Clark, great signing. You go to the midfield. I think Kenzo next season will be unbelievable. You look at him at the start of this season when he was actually playing football half decent and he was getting into those spaces that he liked. Brilliant player. You look at Harrison Armstrong, he's been a good signing. Marcus Harness and Jerry Yates towards the back end of the season have also been good signings. And I do think that with the right money, I do think that we'll be able to make this Derby County team a proper contender. Now, I'm not saying that next season we'll end up in the playoffs. I'm not saying that next season we'll get promoted. But I think, should we stay up, obviously, with the result at Stoke, well, at home to Stoke, I think we could be in a very, very, very good position to be able to build on this squad, finish at the top end of mid-table, maybe sort of towards like 12th, 13th, sort of like where Watford are, Sheffield Wednesday, Swansea City. If we could finish in that sort of category next season, that would be an incredible improvement. Now, I do also think that if Derby County invest properly over the course of the next 2 years, we could be a proper playoff pushing team in 2 years' time in the Championship. Obviously, depending on if we go down. If we go down, we start again, essentially, in my opinion, because we'll lose Zetterstrom, we'll lose Langas, we'll lose Selverson, we'll lose Kenzo. They'll all move on. You lose Wilson, and that ends up making you a much poorer team anyway. So they're obviously discussions which need to be had as well. But obviously, if that investment does come, the right transfers are made, John Eustace is given the backing, we've got a lot of improvement to do, and I think he's the man to do it. Now, you can obviously let me know your thoughts down below on this investment conversation about who you think it could potentially take the reins at Derby County. I know there was someone in my comments over on TikTok saying that there's reportedly been some Norwegian people at the training ground in suits. Now, I think that could be related to maybe a Selverson or a Langas, but obviously I don't know. I'm not at the training ground. I've not spoke to these people, and I just take everything that I'm told at face value. So you can obviously let me know your thoughts down in the comments. If you haven't done so already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, turn on the notification bell. Where do you think Derby County are going to finish next season? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next one.